What's going on, Cancer? And welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and I hope you're just feeling exceptional today. For those of you who are returning, welcome back, Soul Tribe. I appreciate your subscriptions, your likes, and shares. Your support really is just incredible, Cancer, especially today. And it keeps us growing. And for those of you who are new, welcome. I'm happy Higher Self has brought you here. We are in for an amazing journey. And I'm happy you all I'm happy that you're just all here, Cancer, because today is for me, it's a special day because it's my solar return. It's my birthday, and I was feeling, I had this idea cooking up for a while, and I thought, what better way to kind of get to understand me a little bit more and understand where all this optimism and just all this, just all this chattiness comes from than to get an insider. I think that's the sign that's showing I'm crazy, Cancer. I'm still doing it. But just to understand how this guy ticks. So this is going to be there's not going to be any tarot today. This one's just going to be a chart analysis. And I got an idea cooking up for that too, Cancer. So stay tuned for that. It's still cooking. But don't worry. I got something maybe hopefully you all like as well. So, but I'm going to... First off, we're going to get into my natal chart here. Let me scoot over a little bit. Let's look at that already. I gotta... Wait a minute. Hogging up all the space here. This is going to be fun, Cancer. So, just for those of you, if you wanted to see it as just a snapshot of me, just like my birth chart on just like this level. I don't know how you would call that, Cancer. But I have another little list that I'm going to switch over to in a second. But at the very top, if you're looking on the left-hand side, there's a little moon symbol there. My moon's, starting with that one, that's my moon's in Gemini on the 0 degree. Like freshly into Gemini. And I just barely made that cusp. That'd been interesting if I'd have had my moon in Taurus. That would have been an interesting little... I wonder how that would have changed Cancer. It probably would have been a little more reserved, maybe. But I love Taurus energy. But I do have... Oh, and speaking of Taurus, those bold lines there... So those are all the angles that, like important type, like your midheaven is that top one there. The one to the left is the Ascendant, Leo. One at the bottom, Scorpio. That's it deals with like the house, the IC. And then the Descendant is in Aquarius. But if you see, I got a whole party over on the left side there. I have 3 placements in Cancer. My Sun, my South Node, and my Chiron is placed in Cancer. And then all 3 of those are in the 12th house. Oh, and my moon sign's in the 10th house. And I'm going to go into more details about those, Cancer. But then here comes the Leo party. Because my Mercury, my Ascendant, my Jupiter, my Mars, and my Venus. Oh, you can't even see my hands, Cancer. I've got 5 of them up there. All in Leo, all day. And my Mercury's in the 12th house, and then my Jupiter, Mars, and Venus are all in the 1st house. So yeah, that's a whole little party on that side. And then on the right side, well, let me not skip Pluto, because I know Pluto feels some kind of way if he gets ignored. So Pluto's in Scorpio, which is a dignified placement, so that's cool. The Pluto energy is strong there. But on the flip side, Cancer, the Pluto energy is strong there, and it's in my 4th house, and so that deals with we'll talk about that in a minute. That's an interesting placement. But then I have another little party over here. I'm not going to get into... There's one on there that's called the Vertex. I'm not going to get too much into that, but that's in Sagittarius for those of you. And then that little black little hook thing, that's the Lilith, the black Lilith moon, and that's in Capricorn. But then I have... I got a little party in Capricorn, too. I got... very little party. I had Uranus and then Neptune in Capricorn, and my Uranus is in the 5th house, and then Neptune's in the 6th house. And then my North Node is in Capricorn, and that's also in the 6th house, so it might be in the 5th house. No, it's in the 6th house. And then lastly, my Saturn placement is in Aquarius, and that's going to be in the 6th house as well. And I guess I'll jump into... So that's a little quick snapshot of me, but now I'm going to switch over to a more kind of list form here, Cancer. That might be a little more easily digestible there. Get you something to kind of look at. And you see, look at all that. Isn't that insane? I'm just literally lit. Just so much sun energy, Cancer. But let's talk about my first placement, the sun in Cancer. Because, if you got the sun in Cancer, that's... it's a very emotional placement. It's a nice placement for the sun. You know, it's nurturing energy. It's emotional. You know, we're ruled by the moon, and something too to think about, Cancer. To add a little flavor to your chart. In this, actually, while I gotta get used to how to point at this thing, Cancer. You think I did? You'd have thought I practice, but with this chart, this is from the TimePassages app that I like using. I really like how they do their setup there, and their descriptions are pretty solid. I like them. It's a good to get like a good little base level of what you're working with, Cancer. But with the sun and being the moon being the dispositor of the sun, or the ruling planet of my sun placement, Cancer, is going to take on that Gemini influence, because you know the moon rules over that sign. So that's why you'll see where I get a lot of like that flightiness, or that, you know, real talkative energy. You know, I really kind of lean into real heavily. And it, you know, too, I was raised by a Gemini, and the moon is associated with the mother, or can be associated with the mother figure. So that was actually kind of cool. That really was kind of spot on there. But so that's why my Cancerian, because a lot of people, when they meet me, and this kind of comes into play too with my sun being in the 12th house, I'll get into that in a second, but I think that's too, when I tell people a lot that I am a Cancer, they're just kind of like, huh? They're like, woo! Or they look at me like, what do you mean? Like, Cancer what? And it's interesting. I love being a Cancer, to be honest. And I really am. It's one of those things with the sun sign too. It's something that you kind of come into as you get older. Because, you know, when we're younger, you know, we're leaning a lot into that more intuitive side. You know, we're kind of learning as we go. So you know, when we're younger, we tend to lean more into our moon or into our rising sign, considering the rising is how we appear to everybody. So that's another thing too. I really leaned very. It was a nice little combo when I think about growing up, but I was very much in like my Gemini energy pretty heavily growing up. But I feel like the one reason why the Cancerian also doesn't come through as strong is because it's in the 12th house, which is Pisces house, and that deals with like it's the 12th house is a kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to placements. It's not the 12th house gets a lot of bad rep because it deals with like hidden enemies. And when it's talk about hidden enemies, Cancer, if you have any 12th house placements, it's more so kind of like that. So those more kind of subconscious enemies that we make of ourselves, you know, like the low self-esteem, you know, those doubts and things along those lines. That's a lot of 12th house stuff, but it can be some other things as well. It deals with like karmic debts and asylums, fanaticisms, even mysticism, escapism, all those ism words. It really does embody a lot, but and it can. It's one of those where seclusion is kind of needed when you're dealing with kind of 12th house placements, because it is a lot, you know, to be able to, when you're, it almost gives you this sense of like this dissatisfaction with reality. It's interesting trying to be plugged in, or you know, to just kind of like stay focused here, when, because the 12th house does put you in a very imaginative space, and very creative placement, but it's one that you're gonna need to work through some stuff in order to tap into those things. It's like there's like certain aspects of you that are hidden. So it's an interesting placement, but it is one, when worked on, it can produce a lot. It can really be a fruitful placement. There's like a little treasure trove there, Cancer, when you finally get those subconscious placements unknown. So know if you have any 12th house placements, there probably were some difficulties at times, but it's one of those, you work on those things, it gets easier, Cancer. Because I got my son is, and I'm not gonna really get into the aspects too much. I'll talk about the ones that are kind of just the stronger ones that I noticed kind of affected me through life. But speaking of 12th house placements, that's Neptune's house, and my sun is in opposition with my Neptune placement, Capricorn. As you know, sun being a Cancer, Neptune and Capricorn, and it's in a real tight aspect. They're like within like 0.5 degrees of each other. So it's one of my stronger aspects. My strongest one is my Saturn is squared my midheaven, and that's to like a 0.2 degree or something like that. But it gets into that Neptune realm is very murky, and it's like escapism was a big thing for me growing up. You know, like that was a lot, and even going into like my 20s, it was a big thing. I spent, you know, it was of service, you know, but not quite dealing with stuff, and kind of wasn't really how things operate here. Were very I operated in a very different mindset. It didn't make sense at the time. It was just like, and I'm still kind of making sense of it, Cancer, but it's one where oppositions give you a choice, and I chose to be in one vibration of it for a while, and now kind of chose to do in a different one, and now I'm seeing the silver lining there. It has been a tricky one, but it helps, Cancer. But yeah, 12th house stuff, I'm getting on a thing, but these are probably just some things you'd be thinking about. It really does give you kind of, it adds on even like a bit of an introverted type of flavor too. You may notice that depending on the rest of your chart. And I honestly feel that I'm as extroverted as I am is because of, I feel like, my moon placement and then all this Leo in my chart. Like there's like, and then the thing too, Cancer, well, you know, I'll talk about that when I get on those, but yeah, I think that's why. And see, and this is where someone, which I haven't actually met anyone, like I've seen people with charts like kind of close to mine as far as like, you know, the Venus and Mars placements. I'm looking, think what else, other placements. I'd meet a lot of people with like my moon placement, but as far as just like Cancers, you know, this is how you can take on so much nuance when you get to know like the sign, or you know, where the house placements are at and all this stuff. It's really cool, Cancer, how that kind of broadens up, and you see how you've been operating in an energy for a while, and how you can work with that energy a lot differently. Because even now it's like, because when you think of Sun and Cancer in the 12th house, I really kind of take on more, give more kind of like a Pisces vibe too. And then you want to even throw on a little bit more Cancer. Let's just go in and throw on a little bit more there. I'm a second decan Cancer. So there are 3 decans in each sign, and it goes from like, let's say if you have like for Virgos, for example, they would be like a Virgo, a Virgo Capricorn, and a Virgo Taurus. You know, those would be the 3 decans. For Cancer, it's, you got your Cancers, just like full on Cancer, where I fall, Cancer with Scorpio influence, and then the last decans of I couldn't tell you the dates right offhand, Cancer, but the last have that Pisces influence. But being my Sun is in the 12th house, it's like I got a mix of all the water signs. You know, got a little bit of Cancer, got a little bit of Scorpio, and then I'm living in Pisces house. It's just like water all day. So it's fun to even just think about that, Cancer, get kind of abstract with it, and that's actually part way with my Mercury placement too, which will, you know, let me move on to the next one here, Cancer. I could talk about my Sun placement all day and just talk about Cancerian energy all day, like I don't do that here. So let's talk about my moon placement. Because as a Cancerian, the moon placement is very important, you know, because you do, and I was actually talking with someone about this, and I'm still doing that kind of, I'm doing like a little study on the side whenever I meet, I don't know a lot of female Cancers, believe it or not, Cancer, but I do have a lot of male friends who are in like family who are Cancerians. And so I've noticed with the men, we tend to really lean into our moon signs. You know, we really take on that flavor of, it's like that's how it's like the Sun is the masculine energy, and then the feminine energy, it's like it's that balance is that moon energy. It's very interesting, and I've noticed that when I think about all the at least the male Cancerians in my life, you know, that they do really lean a lot into their moon sign, like quite a bit. Still sensitive and, you know, that emotional energy, but it's fun. It's interesting to think about. I'm still playing with that, Cancer. But with the moon in Gemini, it's an interesting placement, because, you know, where the moon and Mercury, I feel like they don't feel any kind of way about each other. It's like it's not that they don't get along, but it's like you lock them in a room, and it's just like, you know, they're 2 of the fastest, you know, kind of, you know, the moon being the fastest luminary and Mercury being the fastest planet. It's a lot going on, Cancer. It's a whole lot, moon in Gemini, and then, you know, add the Sun in Cancer with it. It's, for me personally, it's like I'm thinking a lot and I'm feeling a lot. And then I've been more so kind of feeling a lot lately as I've been kind of getting old. Since my Saturn return, I've been really kind of feeling a lot more. And thinking about all those feelings all the time, it's you're literally, that's why it seems like I'm all over the place, because I'm thinking about so much. It's just like, it's trying to keep that focus and keep that drive. It's very interesting. But the moon in Gemini, it's fun. It's very social. It's very talkative. it's one of the reasons that I don't know, like it makes you very curious. It keeps your mind always active, having that kind of Mercury influence. And the dispositor of my moon placement is in Leo. You know, since Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and my Mercury's in Leo, so it adds that creative flavor on top of that. But even then there's a sense of like my ego and like my pride attached to that as well, and that's something to well, because if you have a chart that's kind of similar to mine, but just like those placements in general. But with the, you know, sometimes there's this energy of when, especially when I like when a thought process of mine is challenged, there's that emotional attachment with the moon, and then it's like I'm overthinking, like, well, what could I set that to get my point across, and it's just like, calm down, Justin. No one's insulting your intelligence. You're fine. It's a really interesting place to be when you start getting into that Leo energy, but you know, Moon in Gemini is also, it's like trying to balance that head and heart energy, because it's, you know, the moon is normally about feeling, you know, and about being in that more kind of intuitive, sensitive type of energy. So now you throw on this Gemini energy that's more thinking, communicating, and even like communicating these feelings, you know, that puts the moon in a, it's not that she can't do it, but it's just, it's a lot to process, because it's just like, what am I feeling? How do I explain that? It's very, but it's cool though, because it does help you, I find, like kind of pick up things faster. You know, it's an interesting kind of balance there. And then my moon is located in the 10th house, so that's in a weird place, 'cause now we're getting in Capricorn's house. And if you know that with Cancer is opposite to Capricorn, and so that's Saturn's house, and the moon and Saturn got a weird relationship. They, you know, they're it's not that they don't like each other, but it's just like, you know, there's a lot of side eye going on there, I feel like, with their relationship. But having the moon in that kind of placement, it's like my emotions are kind of like attached to my career in a sense. And into a sense, it is like, there's this need for like, not for accomplishment or like a sense of achievement, but it does feel good to know that I put my all into my, like, whatever I'm doing, you know. And that's how I've always been. And it has to deal with the nice thing about this placement too is because since the moon is more of an emotional placement, it's, you know, the 10th house deals with like authorities and things. So I tend to get along with like my bosses and stuff, and I've tended to have more female bosses since the moon, you know, deals with like, you know, mothers and strong kind of like just female energy, feminine energy. I've had, yeah, quite a bit of like female bosses, and I get along with them. I got along with all of them great. I mean, it was just like I had real easy when it comes to authority. It was like very natural for me to kind of just like, oh, it ain't no thing. Like if I was challenging something, I was making a point. Like that's where it's just like, this is not like, it would be part of like an art. Like, listen, like, I'm not one to do this, so do you understand why this is might be a big deal, why we might need some pause? Because usually I'm you know, cool as a cucumber. But it is an interesting placement too, because it got me thinking about, as I, you know, got to learn more about this placements and stuff, and just like getting on, taking like that Gemini energy, and it's almost like my moon placement is on display. You know, like the moon is normally about the home life, kind of private stuff. So to have it in such a public placement, it's just like, how do I deal with that? Because it's like, I don't have a problem like opening up to people. I'll tell you all the tea if you ask me. You know, it's like that's just how I've been. And so it's just like how to work with that energy to do achievement, and that's where kind of like this YouTube thing has been really great for that. So if you've noticed that, you know, if you got like an air placement, like let's say like a moon in Libra, or even like a moon in Aquarius or something like that, moon in an air sign, doing something with like the public or just like communication in some sort of way would really kind of help there, if you got that kind of personal placement there. But all right, let's get some tea, Cancer. And then I should have grabbed some more, but that's fine. And let's talk about Mercury. So I have Mercury in Leo. There's now the Leo part. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me talk about my rising first, Cancer. Towards the bottom here. I don't know why they put it in that order there, but my Ascendant is in Leo. So yeah, I was born at 8:06, and Leo happened to be in the sky when I was born. I know a lot of Leo, sidebar Cancer, I know a lot of Leo risings, and that's very fascinating because it's just very fascinating how many Leo risings I know. But Leo rising gives off, the rising sign is like how you appear to everybody. If you think about your big three, your sun, moon, rising, if you think about it like a house, like the outside, the actual house, the outside, that would be your rising sign, just like, like the general flavor, just like, oh, it's in Leo, that's cute, I like that, I see you've got a lot of color, a lot of flair, a lot of pizzazz, I'm with it. And then you go inside, you go in the house, then we're getting to the sun placement, then it's kind of like that, oh, okay, so your living room, blah, 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 all this stuff, I like what you've done with the interior. And then the moon placement would be your bedroom, where you would be more personal, more private, kind of more where you really let the people who really know you, that's that kind of intimate space. So hence why mine being in the 10th house is a little weird. But with my rising sign, give off that Leo energy. And I've actually had someone just tell me not too long ago, and another one confirm, that sometimes my energy definitely kind of comes across, and I think it's because of the concentration. It's a lot. Like it's just one of the, I got that present just like, hey, look at me, how we doing? I love those big deliveries. One of my favorite things about when I was working like food and beverages was just like, I pick a table and it's just like, how big am I gonna go? Like, am I gonna like? Do they seem like they can handle all this? They're about to find out. But that's just the energy that, like, Leo energy. It's fun. It's vibrant. It's bright. And that's even why I noticed that even like my wardrobe was just like, I have like all the same colors. So I'm just like, no, we need to add some freshness in here. It's like one of those things like, Leo risings is that energy that you'd be in like a sea of gray, and then there'd be that pop of color, like a bright red, bright orange, bright green, like that'd be Leo kind of standing out there. And that's what kind of Leo rising stuff, whether it be with their outer appearance, as far as like maybe like crazy hair. I'm not sure what the hell I'm doing with my hair. Something's trying to happen. My mom always said it'd be cool if I did like a sideshow bob, so we'll see how that looks. But whether it be with like lioness type looks, maybe they have the real kind of tight beards, or even like just like a lot of color, or maybe a lot of jewelry. I mean, look, Cancer, I'm bracelet out. So I mean, just like random stuff like that. And yeah, so that's kind of what the rising sign does. It's an interesting energy, just kind of how you give off. And I had some friends it's interesting how you think you're doing one thing, but they were just like, oh, at first I just was like, oh, this is a lot. Like, what's about to happen here? This guy's looks like he's about to do something. He's about to do a flip or something. It's just like, I mean, if that's what you want. But yeah, that's Leo energy, or at least for Leo rising for me in a nutshell. There, it gives out that kind of lioness kind of energy. So kind of you might notice too, kind of got like posture is important, and just like your appearance. It's like you're almost operating like you're in a movie all the time. Like I wouldn't go to the store sometimes if I wasn't like even like kind of done up. Like if I wasn't feeling good, no, I'm not going out. Like it's not even that serious. So yeah, that's Leo rise. It's a little high maintenance sometimes. Only sometimes. But then let's talk about and you know what? Up until the Mars placement, Cancer, these are considered more of your like personal placements, what manifests on the exterior side of you. So that's a nice little bonus there too. And the Ascendant is one of the, like I was talking about, one of the main 4 points that kind of, and especially when you have planets that transit over those main those angular oh goodness, those angular signs, like what I was talking about, your Ascendant, Descendant, Midheaven, and Icy. Yeah, those are going to affect you on an external level, Cancer. You'll feel that type of stuff. So these energies are more kind of unique to you. There may be some similarities with some, but like this is where like just like the uniqueness comes from you, Cancer. But Mercury and this is kind of explain why too I tend to have a little maybe troubles explaining myself, because I have Mercury in Leo, which that as a placement itself is really dope. Like it's Mercury in Leo is, it's very creative. It's very much it's one of those that there is an attachment though to your intelligence, that it's like, you know, it can be a little like kind of over exaggerated a little bit, just a hair, imagine that. Very talkative, very much lot of hand gestures, you know, we're painting a whole story for you, Cancer, you know, very just kind of animated, yeah, very funny, just like a light-hearted energy. You know, I feel like you meet a person with Mercury and Leo, you're guaranteed you're gonna get some laughs, get some big energy. But it can be sometimes, you know, with Leo being fixed energy, that when you get attached to like an idea or like a thought process, unless there's, it doesn't take much for me to change my mind about something, but I am usually pretty set on things. Like it's, I mean, you see how I am with technology. It's I'm getting there, but it's one of those things that's just like you gotta like, well, why? How is this gonna benefit me in what way? And like, but more than that, because I can do that other ways. I'll get creative, but yeah, that's Mercury and Leo's. It's fun, you know. It's it can be, the one thing with Mercury and Leo, it can be very influential as far as like it's, I don't want to say manipulative, but it you do have to be mindful with Mercury and Leo, because it's, you do bring a lot of like optimism and enthusiasm and things, and it's just like making sure that you're not selling, you know, cashing a check that you can't, you know, writing a check you can't cash, or and two, like, I again, it's not really manipulative, but Leo loves fun. You know, we like it, you know, a lot, when you got a lot of Leo energy, you do kind of like the, not necessarily the finer things, but just like having fun and feeling good, and it's like Leo knows how to have fun and feel good, and so it's just, it's something to be mindful of with that energy. You know, how you express yourself and how you use your words, and be very mindful with what yeah, just how, what kind of what you're weaving there. But my Mercury is in an interesting place because it's in the 12th house along with the Sun, and so communication has been, because I mean, you've probably noticed there are times where it's just like, nah, does that make sense? Because it's the really cool part about it is that when you really kind of work on that kind of keep doing that healing and doing kind of really getting tapped into this more kind of creative, kind of spiritual side of you, there is this connection that helps you almost kind of like really, there's a oneness that kind of comes with this energy. You really kind of operate from a very intuitive place, you know, when you get into 12th house stuff. And there are times where it's just like, I'll see, like when I'm doing tarot, and it's like I'll get a card, and it's just like I could talk so much about what's going down, because there is so much that's just like being downloaded at that time. It's just like, my gosh, where I have like, I have 100 thoughts. How do I fit this all into like 30 minutes? You know, and like that's why my video, when I started, my videos were so long. It's just because it's just, I wanted to talk about literally everything, because it was just like you get caught in, you get in that space, Cancer. When you got 12th house stuff, I mean, man, it's incredible, but it's there's a tendency to get lost in it, you know, because it can be so fantastic. It really is interesting, and there is a need to kind of just like, again, just to seclude for a minute and just to kind of be alone and really kind of process what's going down. I remember reading something about this, and it's just like there's a sense of almost like engaging more in monologue than really in dialogue when it comes to Mercury and Leo. You know, there's a sense of like, yeah, we really just need an audience. But yeah, it is fun. It's creative, and it's one where I've even noticed that this has been a nice outlet, but this, like, I need more as far as like to be in that space. That energies can be very healing. So it's just that's Mercury Leo in a 12th house, and it's super creative, but it's one that it takes a second to, for at least for me, it's been this thing that is like to kind of hone in. It's just like, oof, but it can produce some pretty dope stuff here. So let's get into the next one, because I got Leo part to continue to have Venus in Leo. And Venus and Leo is so much fun, and I'm actually due for a Venus return here soon, Cancer. So that's dope. And she's gonna tap my Venus placement like 3 times. Mine is towards like the tail end of the degrees, there on the 28th degree. But my Venus in Leo, for me is it's a very giving energy. You just love. It's like that. For me, there's nothing like that first date, that like honeymoon phase of that process, like, like the gifts, the dates, the late night calls, the spending the night, Cancer. Venus and Leo's lovely, and it is one. It's an interesting placement because there's this idea of that Leo needs to be kind of like over the top, and it's like, have to like show off and, make, ooh, look at me and my partner and all this stuff. And I've personally, and I think it's because, considering my Leo placements are, the dispositor is the sun, my sun's in Cancer in the 12th house, so I don't think they come through as strong. But I think if my placements, I feel like if my sun placement was in like a different house, this would be, you think I can bring over the top now, it's like that probably, if I, or even if I was like I'd say even like a Leo, like let's say if like a Leo sun, that would be probably cranked up to the max. Like it would be a lot. The only person that I've seen that has as much Leo as I do is my stepdad. He's a Leo sun, rising, Mercury, Uranus, and Pluto. So it's interesting. But it's all tied to that. All of my Leo placements are tied to my sun, so they're going to have more of that Cancerian influence to it, that kind of mystical 12th house kind of sense of intuitive mother. It's fascinating, Cancer. But, my Venus in Leo is like, I do like going out for things. I don't mind being like, going to like the fancy dinners. Like in my marriage, where when I was married, we had a very kind of king queen of pentacles type of deal going down. We were out eating all the time, and was renting our own house and stuff, and just like doing it. So, and honestly, I didn't buy a lot of clothes for myself. Like when I got stuff, it was like I got nice things every now and again, but I'd always wear his stuff, and just like it was just always easier that way, because I was like, oh, I like you get all this free stuff, so it's just like, okay. But Venus and Leo, it can be, I don't want to say lazy in a sense, but like you something to be mindful of in the sense of just like, because I mean, it's the Empress is in her Leo energy. She does like, Leo energy, it doesn't matter. It's different how it manifests, I feel like, as far as like, what Leo defines as like finer things and glitz and glam and stuff, whether it's clothes or jewelry or stuff like that. But there is a level of, because I got crystals and stuff all over the place. I've noticed that's been one thing that I do tend to like splurge on a little bit. But there is this energy of just being mindful of, just, working for those things, and like, and not just letting the stuff just kind of just fall in your lap, because it can be where it's not like people just give you stuff all the time, but it's like things come easier than you would think. Like I've not had since Venus deals with the relationships, I've not been in a lot of relationships, but I've not had to work that hard. And that's not me bragging or anything. It's just like, it was one of those things where I'd go online, like people would talk about it. It's just like, I guess it's time to start dating. I guess let's see what's going on. I remember downloading an app, and then I find someone who's just like, okay, yeah, no, that works. So yeah, that's how Venus has operated for me, at least. And my Venus is in the first house, so this gives, and even with Mercury in Leo too, this, and a lot of these Leo placements, it adds on this little extra sense of enthusiasm, or not enthusiasm, of charisma. And of course there's enthusiasm involved. There's there's this kind of like almost refined, like even in how I like how if you have it in the first, like how you'll walk is a little bit different. I've had like people tell me that I'll have like the way I walk is it's there's, and a lot of that comes from like honestly a lot of it comes from marching band, but there's a little behind the scenes about me, Cancer, but yeah, being that it is in the first house, it does affect your appearance as well, and like in how you take on a lot of that kind of Venusian type of energies. And I've something too, Cancer, to if you, or not if, when you look up your chart, Cancer, that the closer that Venus is to your ascendant, and my Venus is, she's about to leave. She was just like, nah, you good, homie. But the closer Venus is to your ascendant, the more that it does give you those like almost like Venus, like goddess like looks and things. It really does like amp up your outer appearance, or, and if it doesn't even do even just like external stuff, it's really nice just to kind of inside too, really just makes, just you shine inside and out, and you give in, you're radiating that sunlight. It's a nice placement for Venus to be when it's channeled on a higher vibration. It could really be very creative as well. So that's something to dabble in like different kind of arts and things along those lines. Way of just like you can express yourself, and all these first house stuff. It has to deal with a lot of like expression of self, and it's interesting in how you kind of view the world and the impression that you leave, and kind of like your attitude towards life. So, and I got let's talk about the next one, yeah, because that's pretty much what I got with Venus and Leo, and then with Mars and Leo. So I have Mars and Leo in the first house, and then that's kind of cool because that's Mars in the first house. That's one of his houses, so he's an accidental dignity there. So that's kind of dope. So the energy comes through a lot stronger. But Mars and Leo energy is one where it's one where you definitely, well, that first house influence has a little bit stronger emphasis on that, but there's definitely an energy of making sure to move, like to be active with this stuff, like it's, thinking about the Lions, Lions got to stay in shape, they got to defend their pride. So it's just like, it is not like, saying, becoming like professional bodybuilders or anything, Cancer, but just making sure we're moving, keeping the energies moving. Mars does well in fire placements outside because he rules Aries and Scorpio. He does weird in other water placements outside of Scorpio, but Mars does really well in fire placements. And that excess energy that you have, Cancer, if you have any Mars in your placement, or if you have Mars and Leo or in a fire placement, you're just making sure to move that energy for sure. But Mars in Leo is one where Leo deals with a lot of leadership too, and that's one that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around, as far as just like what does a leader look like on me, kind of asking those kind of deeper questions, and what steps does that look like. But Mars is that, that take action, that drive. Leo likes to be seen, it's that sun energy, that leadership, that confidence. So with Mars and Leo, there is a sense of like a self-assuredness there, but there's a balance of making sure not to be domineering, and like forcing, as far as like ideals and things on, Leo thinking that, like, or just like fixed energy in general, can get into a place where it's like, and you see how much fixed energy I got, Cancer. I got like what, at least with my rising, if you take my rising out, I got like over half of my planets are fixed energy. So it's like that's about half of them fixed energy. So it's like it's something, yeah, like when you get locked on something, it can be hard to break. But yeah, Mars and Leo it's a pretty cool. I like it because it's it's a very passionate placement too. So that's one where it's, just like it's making a lot of energy that you need to move with that one Cancer, with Mars especially in a fire sign. But to couple that, if you have Mars in the first house, this is where really kind of like physical activities, like the name of the game. I work out pretty regularly. It's not as aggressively as I did when I was younger, but definitely that it's still as an important part of my routine for sure. Just making sure to move the body, going out for walks and things along those lines. What else? But it's also one, since it's a very kind of leadership, that's Aries house, so that is very much kind of like really strong about like self-expression and like really just kind of being in that, like, what do you want to, what is your emperor energy looking like, it's a very very interesting energy with Mars being in the first house. But it's finding that balance at, and mine, I'm noticing it's just like, again, with it having that kind of Cancerian influence, it's just like I do a lot of stuff based off of what I feel, and is finding that kind of that line. And then that's it's interesting, and I'm going to talk about the South Node a little bit later. But it's just like a lot of this stuff is like I'm Cancer with having been, my it's a lot. I'll get into that next, Cancer. I'm about to get all over the place, Cancer. But that's pretty much Mars in the first house. Very active, very assertive, can be a little aggressive. Just even with the, and I've said this too, Cancer. Like if I'm going to be aggressive, it's going to be aggressive enthusiasm, like just all the way optimism. If I got to crank it up, I just like bet. It's on. So, but then it doesn't help that we get into Jupiter in Leo. And my Jupiter placement is actually pretty close to my ascendant. Just within, like, I think like just outside of like a normal orb. It's like about 3.4 degrees, I want to say, to my ascendant. But Jupiter in Leo is very big energy. Like it's when you're on. Like it's just like you can just like it's cool. Like there were some days where, or some times I can remember where it's just like you push in a way, and I feel like that was kind of coupled with Mars and Leo as well. But it's just like there's some times where I like can really just kind of push, and it's just like, where did that energy come from? And that's Jupiter in Leo. It's very giving, whether it be through like gifts, or I'm a pretty okay gift giver, but I more so give out just like whenever you need someone to just like lift you up, or just to hear you out, or to whatever. That's how my energy has always been, as far as just like we will talk about the whatever you need to, we'll go deep, we'll talk about what the dark stuff, whatever you need to get out there, and then we're going to find that silver lining. Bet we're going to work all the way up through that. That's how I've always operated, and that's Jupiter and Leo. It's in considering my Jupiter is in the first house, so a lot of that is a strong kind of self-belief, just like my beliefs are very important to me, as far as just like what I, personally, and like, by even in my more kind of lower vibrations, I always call myself what was the phrase that I used? It was like I'm a low key. I'm paraphrasing now, but I was like, I'm a low key optimist or something along those lines. Like even in my gloom, I still could see the glass as half full. Like like I may have to work for it a little bit, but I could find it. Like because it was. Leo energy doesn't keep you down for long. You can go, it's like with the Cancer energy and being in the 12th house, you can go kind of deep, but it was one where it's the Leo energy helped. It was just Jupiter and Leo. I feel like really kind of helped me out, and it's and now we're getting into more. Now we're getting that we're actually that just reminded me. Now that we're getting more out of the personal planets after Mars, these ones start to become more generational, Cancer, and Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year at a time. So you would have Jupiter and Leo, here's my notes, if you were born between August 1990 and September of 1991. And so your Jupiter will be in Leo. I don't have like the exact date, Cancer, but yeah, it gets in because a lot of my good chunk of my friends, they all have their Jupiter. Yeah, I want to say they all have their Jupiter in Leo, but but yeah, that's that placement, Cancer. It is one where, if you considering Leo is very generous, Jupiter is very generous. The more that you give, and the more that you just and without expectations, the really a lot that you do give back, the universe returns tenfold. It is a nice placement, and it's one where your Jupiter return happens every 12 years, and that's always an abundant time, and how that looks on. My last Jupiter return, and it is actually it's been pretty spot on, as far as like when that transit happened, when my Jupiter was conjunct my natal Jupiter, was in the 4th house, And so I've had in the last, I think Jupiter's going to be back in Leo. I want to say it's like 2026, I want to say. And in this time, I've moved quite a bit. I've had quite a bit of home changes, and they've all grown. It started out like, little one bedroom apartment in the middle of Chicago, and like, outside Midway, and then went to Florida for a little while, went to Washington State for a while, Colorado, back Chicago, like, and now I'm back in Florida. It's like, it's a lot that has, and it's like, it's grown and it's shrank, and it's just like, just that's where my Jupiter returns at. So it's paying attention to that stuff. It is very fascinating how that stuff will manifest. So it's interesting. And Jupiter energies, one of your lucky spots. So just finding out where that is a dope thing, Cancer. But I think that was about all I got about the Jupiter. Oh, and with mine, yeah, being in the first house too, Jupiter deals with like luck and things. So it's like the more that being where my thoughts are at, and where if you have first house placements, how you view yourself is very important. If your self-esteem is in a low place, then, especially when I was thinking about, for me, like my Jupiter placement, when I was in a low, on the outside, I looked very abundant, because that's where I put the work in, at least looking like it's okay. But on the inside, it was a lot of weirdness, a lot of low vibrations and low self-esteem. But it's one where you work on those, get those affirmations, work on those kind of like exercises, coping mechanisms and things. It can be very abundant. So it's something to think about there, Cancer. Now let's get into another outer placement. I have Saturn in Aquarius, and now we're getting into a bigger one, because Saturn in Aquarius is for around the time when I was born, around the 90s. It was from February of 91 until January of 94 was the last time when, around that time, if you were born around that area, the Saturn would have been in Aquarius. And Saturn in Aquarius is an interesting one, because it's this sense of, and Saturn rules Aquarius, so it's like the energy's dignified there, but there's this sense of not feeling like that you belong, or that you don't really, that no one really gets you. There's this, it's like, and this is, I've noticed this with like a lot of my friends and people with this placements. It's just like that there is this sense of, it's not that you don't want to make friends, but it's just like sometimes you don't feel like that people understand you. So it's just like it's like a very small kind of intimate group. It's like you can count on your hand how many like really good friends that you have. And even then, sometimes, that can even get you in a weird kind of place. There's almost like a need of wanting to be alone all the time, but it's just like you need others, but you want to belong to a group as well. It's such a conundrum, but it's the Aquarius energy. And so the interesting thing with Saturn and Aquarius, it's just like finding out ways to get yourself out there. That's where, Aquarius deals with like the future and technology and things. So it's doing like this YouTube thing, for example, has been a great way for me to kind of like connect with the soul tribe, to get like to kind of give, since I, not as technically savvy as I would like, and I'm actually going to start posting more stuff on YouTube, at least somewhere, because it's like Facebook and stuff, I ain't doing anything with them. But I can do more here, and I will do more, Cancer. And that's what Saturn and Aquarius says. It's just like, in order to make those tight bonds, it's like there's a need to do more, and like I've been even thinking about, for example, going out for different, joining a group. I think I might have mentioned in some of the videos where I talk about joining like a Scrabble group or something like that, just to see what that's like, or just something along those lines, to just like develop a stronger sense of community, because Aquarius energy, wherever it's placed, is meant to do something great. It's meant to bring something innovative. And our generations, all that Saturn and Aquarius is a very, very different type of group. We're doing things that I've noticed, like everyone, even like past Aquarius, like the generation before mine, that was with Saturn and Aquarius, very different type of group, very innovative energy that was coming through. So And the thing with my placements, because there are times where I do like as much as extroverted energy as I do have, it's there are times when I do enjoy my alone time. I love my alone time, but there is a balance that's needed, and that's where even like the side gig that I got, like it's I'm a bartender, but it's nice to get out and socialize. I don't want sometimes I have an aspect. Which one is I think it's my moon is squared Venus, where sometimes having to be on all the time, or not even sometimes I think that need or that feeling that you need to be on all the time, and that's not really the case, but it's where I don't always like that. It's just like I know I can do it, and it's just getting used to that socializing aspect. It's just like, all right, come on, like you can do it. Like you know how to talk with people. Like you're a natural. Your chart says so, so do it. And that's been kind of nice to just like even just throw yourself into out of your comfort zone. Even and not that I'm pretty in my comfort zone in the bar, but it's just a little something if you happen to have this placement, or something along those, like Saturn placements are interesting, but and I actually just went through my Saturn return not too long ago. That happens about every 28 years or so, and the energies really kind of sink in over the following years, like over the next 3 years after that. It's like once Saturn officially leaves out, it's like the lessons are really kind of solidifying there. But yeah, like it was. I noticed when I went through my Saturn return, it was about. Oh yeah, it was about 28, 29. I want to say it was, and it wasn't like a big drastic thing. It was more of like it was definitely more of like a mindset type of change that I noticed was just like because when I was talking about that Sun Neptune aspect, I kind of got in a little deep with the escapism there, but then I had a moment where it's just like, this isn't working. Like this is like, I don't like this. Like I was still doing my routine, but it's just like it was like I detox the body to retox the body, and it was just like doing that dance all the time, and it's just like, this is not conducive to your growth. Your hangovers are hitting a lot harder. You gotta you come on, what are we doing? And so that's where yeah, things really kind of started to change, and it's been an interesting journey there, Cancer. But all right, let's talk about, let's say, where are we at on time? Okay, I'm doing all right. Let's talk about Uranus in Capricorn. Because Uranus in Capricorn. This is another one. Uranus was in Capricorn from around my generation, would be from February 1988 until April 1995. You'll have Neptune in Capricorn. And, oh, shoot, let me backtrack to Saturn, because the thing that makes these generational ones different is where your house placements are at. That's where the focus needs to be on. And for mine is my Saturn's in the 6th house. And so that's Virgo's house. It deals with my health, my well-being, fitness, my diet, service to others, daily routines, systems, things. So, and routines are very important to me. Like I'm a terrible person when it comes to vacations, because I'm trying to work my vacation around my routine as opposed to the other way around. Like that's where I like traveling, but not really. It's a weird place, Cancer. But routines have been, even in my lower vibrations, routines have always been important to me in some way, shape, or form. And it's just like, and even now, like there's been some life stuff, and like it's been hard to kind of keep that thing going, but it is something that I do think about often. So that's where I need to work on. And as far as like paying attention to my health and things along those lines, if you have Saturn in that 6th house energy, or even in Virgo, one of the two, it is about that well-being, paying attention to, because otherwise it does manifest in weird ways. Your body will start to rebel, and it's just like, yo, this I mean, you can keep doing this, but it's just like you're gonna see what happens. Like there's about to be a Tower moment, Hanged Man, whatever you want, devil situation, devil, shoot, he's already in the house somewhere, but. Yeah, that's Saturn in the 6th house, thinking about that routines. But now let's get back to Uranus and Capricorn, because Uranus and Capricorn, and you've noticed this, like our generation was one where it's how, because Capricorn deals with, like, again, authorities, ambitions, careers, and our generation has been, or that Uranus and Capricorn generation has been one that has changed how authorities are viewed, how we work now, how you can achieve goals. This, we can come into the, advent of the internet. It really did, the whole game changed up from YouTube to blogs to MySpace to Facebook, like everything. It was just like a big, just innovative boom. So, and that's what Uranus is all about. It's, Uranus and Capricorn as a placement is tough because sticking to that status quo, that kind of rigid sort of like 9 to 5 type of energy, it's tough because your soul didn't pick that energy for this. It's like it's trying to. I feel like it's one thing to let that fund a dream, but to kind of fit yourself in a mold and trying to do things how everyone else does it. And listen, there's not anything wrong with how it's done, but when you talk about working with your energies and getting the most out of what you're doing, it's really staying true to who you are. Uranus energy is that uniqueness, and that's where even like Saturn in Aquarius, it's sticking to that uniqueness and finding like-minded people instead of being the loner, being the one that connects with others that are in that same type of field so that you can create a deeper sense, deeper bond. And that's what Uranus and Capricorn is about too. It's just like, it's really sticking to your passions and changing up a lot of like, and it's not that you have to do that, but it's just like, a lot more like self-employed stuff, having it where you're like making your schedule. I was actually talking with someone, a Taurus, and she actually gave me a really, really great insight. And I had thought about this, but not to the degree that she had thought about it. And it was brilliant how she had it together. It's like a bunch of different things a bunch of different things that she likes doing and working her schedule around that. She's got her main thing here, does another thing here, does blah 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 here, but she's living her life, and living fulfilled. And that's what Uranus and Capricorn wants. It wants you to be able to achieve change. And it's like, I've not gone through like a bunch of jobs, but I've changed careers a couple of times, like thinking about like, okay, well, I kind of want to do this and then I want to do that for a while and then kind of fall back on something. But it's just like now it's like trying to find a way to fund all this. I've been thinking about it a lot differently in like the approach, and that's Uranus energy. It's like, it is thinking about that, shaking things up, because it's just like, well, yeah, Capricorn is about success and achievement and that structure and things, but Uranus don't care. Uranus is like, we can do this a different way because that's how we keep the wheel turning and show others that they can do this too, and then they add their flavor onto it. It's beautiful how that works, Cancer. So definitely Uranus and Capricorn is a tricky one, but it is a cool one, and mine is in the 5th house, and so it's like right on the cusp of that 5th, 6th house. But the 5th house deals with like, it's more Leo energy. Now that I actually think about that, it's more Leo energy with the sense of like, this Leo's house and the Sun's house, and that deals with self-expression, drama, romance, creativities, hobbies, and things. And that's something where you might notice that those things change. Like how you go about creating this structure with Uranus and Capricorn is just like, and I've noticed it too, where it's just like, I got to get creative as far as like how I go about what success looks like for me. And then to attach that, moon placement in the 10th house, it's just like, it means a lot. So it's just like, as far as like wanting to, you find the passion, and it's just like, how do you bring it to? And in that sense, it's like, I get the anxiety of Capricorn, it's like, and I'm almost a little envious that they can not necessarily shut their emotions off, but put them to the side. But in the sense, like, it's finding that balance, of course. But there is being a Cancer and having to work towards it, and I'm gonna talk about my North Node in a second, but having to work towards that Capricorn type of energy, it's a little tough, but. You get creative, especially if yours is in the 5th house there, Cancer. So that's something to think about. And it's just like how you go about things change over time. Because it has for me. Like I've done a wide range of jobs. Like food and beverage has been like a main one that's been like kind of on and off. It's always a nice one that if I need to in a pinch, I can just jump back in real quick, and like it's like riding a bike. But there have been like little oddball ones. I've done like painting gigs. I've Oh goodness! I used to do park and recreation. I was a recruiter for a spell. Just like a lot of just like kind of random things. Tried to do like a did like a little took a break and did some music for a while. It's a lot of stuff, and I'm actually about to just start doing some more music here soon too. I'm actually for my birthday. I'm gonna go get a saxophone, and it's gonna be I haven't played in years. Like 12th house stuff. I got kind of caught up in my 20s were a weird kind of time. A lot of growth that needed to happen there, but now we're fixing it, and that's part of one of the things. I'm getting back in touch with that creativity because I've been higher selves been giving me little nudges to get one, so we're gonna make it work. But let's talk about Neptune in Capricorn because that's an interesting one too. Because Neptune is in fall, the energy falls in Capricorn, so it's a little bit weak in there. And this generation for Neptune and Capricorn would have been from was it January? I think it's January of 1984 into January of 1998. Would have been a block of Neptune and Capricorn, and it's Neptune and Capricorn, it's like it's getting out of that mix up because Neptune is very fantasy kind of based. Deals with that subconscious, getting caught in that intuition. It's like how do you make that and then take that to manifest? How do we be that take that and be of service? Getting to it's almost like getting into like energies of like healing. How we can be of how we can help it can be really great for getting into like spiritual work or to I don't know, even to be like even some kind of nursing or maybe working in just something to be of in like maybe of healthcare or just something that is like of uplifting or something along those lines. It could be maybe writing books, or but it's trying to get out of that dreamy state and make that manifest. It literally is kind of like when you think about Capricorn, in Western astrology, how there's a sea goat. That tail, the fish tail of Capricorn, that's their intuitive side. They got the work down of that one side, but now it's like they're trying to take those dreams and make it mad. If they had all four of their legs, they see sea goats or regular goats, they stand on like side of the mountains all horizontal or you know what I'm talking about. Goats do a lot, but now they have to get in a more intuitive space. It's like finding that balance with Neptune and Capricorn, and how we can take that dreamy energy and turn it into success, and make that it's very interesting energy how to bring those dreams come true, but it's totally possible, especially with the being in Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign of achievement. But it's just keeping that discipline, keeping that drive. And my Neptune placement is in the 6th house. So that's one where again like routines and health and things are very important. It can be hard to find that balance, and luckily I've been a lot of this stuff has been kind of ingrained in me where it's just like I get like mad anxiety if I feel like I'm gonna be late or things along those lines, but that's one aspect way that it can because Neptune gets into makes things like kind of elusive, makes it hard to grasp onto. The waters get kind of murky, so it's like with the routine it can be hard to get something locked down, or you can get into this place of either not worrying about your health enough or get into this place where you become maybe even like a hypochondriac and like kind of overly focus on things. So it's a weird place to kind of balance, and I've even seen where I even have I think about it all the time, like as far as just like where it's 6th house stuff is it's monotonous, Virgo's house, but it's necessary. It's one of those things that it does bring that having that routine in life. It helps keep that energy grounded, and because that earth energy is important, especially in this realm. It plays its part, and it's just like it's finding that balance and making sure that it's because it could even manifest into I was listening to something, it could even manifest to even where it's like we could think that you can heal it through where it's like you're avoiding doctors, to kind of like to not be with the problem. That's one I gotta work on, but taking just preventative maintenance is the name of the game. Like that's why I'm always like, and listen, this isn't health advice or anything along those lines, But when it comes to just me just kind of tuning into my body, because even in my lowest, I was usually pretty hyper aware of what was going on in my body, and it's preventative maintenance, whether it's just like I drink a bunch of teas, moving the body, trying to get enough rest, things along those lines. It all helps in the long run there, Cancer. So if you happen to have that Neptune in that 6th house placement, it's something to takes on that Virgo flavor. So just something to think about, and just wherever your planets are at, and know that if you have empty placements, that's not like it's not like you're lacking or anything along those lines. It's just that's not the focus. It's because like for me, it says I got a lot of focus on self, couple with some subconscious stuff, some healing things, couple routines, couple planets in my routine, and then one in my creative side. So not too bad, Cancer. About 5 with Pluto doing the 4th house stuff. We gotta talk about that one next. But that's pretty much Neptune and Capricorn in the 6th house there, Cancer. Now let's talk about Pluto and Scorpio. Because Pluto and Scorpio, that generation was from November of 1983 to November of 1995. And that's... Pluto and Scorpio is... Pluto rules over Scorpio. So it's a strong placement. This generation is one of change. Of transformation and... of bringing up the hidden and, resilience and... dabbling into Pluto gets into energies of like the occult and just like of power, and it's a lot. Pluto energy is intense, and being at home in Scorpio, it's a whole lot, and it's a lot of any kind of Scorpio placement. There's going to be change that's going down. So yeah, Pluto and Scorpio is an interesting one. There's a lot of our generation. That generation is one of really kind of challenging the status quo and really kind of like pushing and wanting to always talking about change there, Cancer, and how things not quite satisfied with how things are run, and just a need to kind of bring some stuff up to light here. But my Pluto placement is in a tricky one, because it's in the 4th house, which is Cancer's house. And that deals with the home and ancestry and the roots. And I will say I did not have a challenging childhood. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Because my moon in Gemini, that implies like my relationship. Because I had my stepfather, of course. I don't know my biological father, but I have a real tight relationship with my mom. It's complicated, but what relationship with the parent isn't? But we had that Gemini energy was a lot of fun growing up. But things changed as I got older. Like it was when it was no longer about fun, and then there was a shift that happened, and there was some other things, and that was around the time the escapism started to kind of take root, and I kind of got lost there for a little while, and a long while, but there's a lot of things to do when it comes to home that I got to figure out how to deal with that, and that's something where it can manifest in very different ways. Pluto is intense energy. It's meant for the greater. It's meant to help you grow in the long run, but it's just like, man, it asks a lot. It asks a whole lot, and sometimes makes you emotional, Cancer. But it's one of those things. There's going to be a lesson regardless, and then how you take that perspective is one that it can help you grow in the long run. So I'll leave that one there. And then last few here, I won't get too far into these ones. I thought I was going to kind of keep this short. I was thinking, just talk a little briefly about this. It'd be like maybe a little 20-minute thing for the fucking hour later. Oh, excuse me, Cancer. Excuse me, Cancer. And that's one too, like my moon in Gemini. If you knew me out, and I may put like a little note up in. Well, I have it not advised for kids, but I make it a point to not use profanities when I'm recording the channel, that does not mean that I don't use them. I'm a big, for me, they are sentence enhancers. There's a time and a place for it. I'm not vulgar, Cancer, but they're present. And so, what was I going to even say? Oh, that's part of that Gemini energy. That's my, sometimes my mouth gets ahead of my head and it's like, whoop. Just got to get a little colorful with my language there, Cancer. So let's talk about Chiron in Cancer. Chiron is another tough one. I got a lot of weird family placements that, oh, I didn't look up the generation for this one, Cancer. Shoot, I'm slacking on that, but I forgot to look up Chiron. Chiron's like an asteroid. Not like an asteroid. Chiron's an asteroid that deals with, and not everyone looks into Chiron. It's an interesting placement, and I feel like it definitely warrants something to look into, because it's that deep wound in you, Cancer. It's a subconscious one where it's if you know the legend of Chiron, he was he's the wounded healer, and he gets poisoned. I forget the whole story, but he gets poisoned, and he's immortal, but he's got this poisonous wound, and he can't heal it. And so he gives up, I think he gives up his immortality so that he can essentially, I think, die to just not deal with this poison. It was a whole pretty intense story, Cancer, and Chiron is pretty intense. What the healing that needs to be done there is that kind of like open wound of just like that scar that you kind of just sort of have to make peace with, that's just kind of ingrained on you, and it's just like, how can you heal from that? And Chiron in Cancer deals with, it's a tough one. It's, Cancer is motherly energy, and it is one, and it's something where when I tell you, Cancer, that when it's like, these challenges are tough and they're going to make you better and all these things, I get where stuff is hard, because I do have a lot of things. I got some family stuff that I need to figure out how to work out, and without getting too personal, leaning too much into my moon in the 10th house here and putting spilling all the tea, Cancer. Yeah, I got some stuff that I do need to work on. And when you're this one is more of a hanged man situation, I would say, and it's trying to figure out a new perspective and a new approach, and possibly what you're willing to sacrifice for that, Cancer. But the Chiron in Cancer is one where there probably is a wound in the home space, and Cancer being the motherly energy, it could be with the mother or whomever was like that dominant, maybe even kind of figure, as far as like your parental figure, but it has something to deal with. There's some kind of healing in the home space that needs to be done, or just something that either needs healing or learning to make peace with that wound, Cancer. And I have Chiron in the 12th house, so it's actually this little extra spice of loveliness. So there's some subconscious Chiron in the 12th house. It's getting in touch with higher self and getting in touch with spirituality and finding where that divide happened. And yeah, that's an interesting one too. That's I get chills even just thinking about it. It has been a very rewarding one. Honestly, it's been easy. The 12th house aspect of it's been easier to deal with than the Cancerian part of it. That's been the home space that has been dealing with, and then couple that with Pluto in the 4th house, this is a whole lot, Cancer. So yeah, that's Chiron's a tough one. So it's one that's, I feel like it's good to have eyes on, because I'm actually in the middle of, my transits are pretty calm right now. My biggest one right now is that Pluto's and it's starting to actually move away from my Gemini placement a little bit, but Pluto's trine with my Gemini moon placement. And it's actually about to form an opposition with my Chiron placement, because my Chiron's on the 28th degree and Pluto's about to move back to the 28th degree soon. So there's probably going to be, I'm probably in for some good old transformative healing here, Cancer. I'm so excited. But yeah, there's that. That's Chiron. But okay, we got two more things. North Node in Capricorn. This is setting out to, if you have the North Node in Capricorn, you will have the South Node in Cancer. They're always opposites of each other. And South Node in Cancer is kind of what you came with, the skills that you already had, what you're coming in with your comfort zone, and then couple that I'm already a Cancer. It's just like, it's not leaning on that space. It's using that skills to elevate you to that next level. The nice thing I feel like about having the North Node in Capricorn is that when you get into that nurturing kind of a Cancerian space, and it's like you're making it a point to achieve Capricorn status, as far as like maybe we're teaching others how to tap into that intuitive side or do some kind of like maybe some kind of like nurturing, whether it be like healthcare or ways that you can just elevate people, and turn that into your career, make that your drive. It can be a powerful placement, but Cap North Node in Capricorn it's taking. Yeah, it's taking, what you've already learned. It's getting you out of that home space. It's getting you out of your comfort zone and actually working on achievement, because maybe in the past life, because we've done this dance a couple times, Cancer, and it's cool when you actually do like the synastry chart and compare others. I had a lot of my friends, we got some pretty cool past life aspects here. But when you think about that space, we were probably in a time, if with that generation where we were just kind of more comfortable in the home. There was it was kind of like we were kind of focusing more so on the nurturing aspect, the all of that, and just kind of like keeping the home space, maybe kind of like housewife, house husband type of energy, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, Cancer. But now it's becoming that providing, it's that balance aspect, because it's like taking what you've learned and it's like, how do we keep this home base and then go out there and still get that sense of success, support this space, you know what I mean? It's really coming into that. It's almost like leaving the nest, Cancer, like getting ready to go off into the world and grow and things along those lines. That's what's going down with the North Node in Capricorn. And mine is in the 6th house, so that's another one, Virgo stuff. It's finding that thing and then making a routine of it and then pouring into that. And North Node, when you think about, if you're ever wondering about like career readings, Cancer, if you check out, a big one to check out is like your Venus placement is it kind of deals with your finances and stuff in relationships, so like kind of Venus placement, but big one is going to be your North Node and your Midheaven. And if you have any 10th house placements, those are going to be those are going to be some big three that you're going to look into, if you want to see what kind of energies, like, so like, when I'm thinking about career and stuff, like I'll look at, and I've actually just been kind of looking at, making a point to look at more career ones here recently, but Capricorn, Taurus, and then since I have my moon in Gemini, I'll check out Gemini's reading as well, which I already check it out since it's my moon placement, so it's just kind of a win-win there. But yeah, that's something to think about with the North Node. I think that's all I got there, because the North Node is what you're meant to accomplish in this lifetime, Cancer, with this go round here. And it's depending. It's just like, if we don't, because there's a part of me that feels like it's like I have all this like leadership energy or something here, like this big energy, but then it's like watered down with all the Cancer. So I feel like maybe there was a time where I was just like kind of about all the fun and just doing the manifesting and all this stuff, and it's like now it's like, all right, no, Cancer, you need to get to work. We need you in that leader role, but you need to go do something now. Let's give you a bunch of heat and go do, because I am the type where it's like, as soon as, especially with my moon placement, it's like if you're like ready to go, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So, and then last little placement, Cancer, my midheaven is in Taurus. And with my midheaven in Taurus, it's that's an interesting one, because it's like my career, it's security is important for me. And that happens when you usually have a Leo rising. It can vary a little bit, but usually it's like when you have a Leo rising, that's where you'll have that Taurus placement. And it's an interesting placement. It's one where it kind of takes some time to find kind of like that flow, that career, but it's like when you do, it's gonna happen, like it's going to, then it's just like putting in that work and really kind of committing to that thing. But it's just like finding that aspect, it's with it being Taurus, and another thing too, considering who the ruler of that sign is. So let's say, for example, if your ascendant is in Cancer, and that would mean that that could potentially mean that your midheaven is in Aries. So you'd want to see where your Mars placement is at to kind of get an idea of like what you could be focusing on in your career. So with my midheaven being in Taurus, the ruler of my midheaven is Venus. My Venus is in Leo in the first house, so it's focusing on a way to kind of promote myself out there, as far as like, creating a lot of stuff. Mine is a pretty creative mix. So, and with Taurus energy, being ruled by the Empress, it's, doing some kind of art, singing, beauty, music, woodwork, something along those lines too. And I feel like it's like setting your own type of schedule too, because another thing with like like all that Capricorn energy, like Uranus and Capricorn, it's like there's this need of not wanting to be under that like authoritative energy. So it's like setting your own type of 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 routine there, Cancer, and your own kind of schedule. So, but midheaven in Taurus, it's a kind of a slow burn at first because it's like just kind of figuring out what resonates with you. But when you do, it's off to the races. So, oh, all right, Cancer. Yeah, I hope that helped. You got to know a little bit about me. Hopefully, if you have any of those placements, you got a little bit out of here. And what I think I want to do, Cancer. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. I think I'm gonna make this. I'll talk about this in some upcoming videos. I have like an idea in my head that I want to start implementing here. I'm gonna start doing some stuff here, extra stuff here soon, Cancer. So stay tuned for that. But I hope you enjoyed this little birthday edition of my chart analysis, and I hope you got something from it. Hope this got you understand me a little bit more. And if you ever want me to go a little bit more in depth, and I don't know, I can even get into like the points and talk about aspects and things, and because I do like it's a whole thing, Cancer. It's a lot when you get into your chart, and even that flavor adds on a whole different layer of you, and it just makes you so much more nuanced, Cancer. But yeah, I hope if it's your birthday this weekend, today, if it's your birthday today, I'm partying with you, and I'm taking this through till tomorrow too. So it's gonna be chill, Cancer. I'm having a chill birthday, and if your birthday is tomorrow on the ninth Sunday, happy birthday. I hope you're enjoying this. And, stay safe out there during your birthday season. Meditate under the moon. Well, moon's in Pisces for me for my birthday. I thought that was pretty dope, so I'm with it. And I will catch you on the next one, Monday.